You're seeing on your screen. On the left is the World Trade Center. We have smoke billowing out of both towers. It has been for over an hour now. We also have smoke coming out of a portion of the Pentagon on the right-hand side of your screen. That has been going on for about 10 or 15 minutes. It would seem that the United States on this day is under attack from terrorists, that the first aircraft was the first blow in that attack. It was an aircraft that an eyewitness has described to us as a 737. It struck the World Trade Center at its upper levels at 8:45 or within minutes of that this morning. And then 18 minutes after that, there was this frightening scene of a second aircraft plowing into the other tower on the southern tip of Manhattan. When visibility was perfect for flying, it would seem that both aircraft were directly targeting the World Trade Center, a building that has, or a facility that was the scene of a terrorist attack back in 1993. That attack killed 6 and left over 1,000 injured. Although we have no reports of casualties, it would seem that we can expect those numbers to be much, much worse today. Shortly after that attack, the president came forward in Florida with a brief address to the nation, promising the full resources and saying this will not stand. And then he is flying back to Washington. Once he gets there, he'll find the White House, the Capitol, and the Treasury have been evacuated. Is ablaze. Victimized again by yet another attack, this one in the nation's capital. That one came at about 9:30 Eastern Time. Bill Plant is standing by with us at the White House or thereabouts. Bill, where are you and what are you getting?
Hello?
Bill? Bill? Bill Plant is standing by. Let's go ahead and see if we can't get our communication through with him. We are getting a report here. I'm looking. Paul Begala, Democratic consultant to Bill Clinton, is being quoted on the wire as saying he witnessed the explosion near the Pentagon shortly after 2 planes crashed in the World Trade Center. He says it was a huge fireball, a huge orange fireball, and he says another witness told him that a helicopter exploded. He is saying that another witness told him a helicopter exploded. Let's go to Bill Plant. Bill can't hear me, but I understand we can get his audio. So let's go ahead and signal Bill to tell us what he's got.
Bill Plant in Washington. I am across the street from the White House on the other side of Lafayette Park, approximately 1 block away. They have evacuated the entire White House staff and the staff of the old executive office building next door. We understand that the Treasury is also being evacuated. There's a lot of activity, fire trucks, ambulances, but as far as we know, there is no damage in the White House complex. I repeat, no damage that we know of in the White House complex. But this was in response to damage elsewhere, to the New York aircraft incidents and to whatever it was that happened at the Pentagon. But this is a full alert. The Secret Service has moved everybody away from the White House grounds, away from the White House complex. And they keep telling us that we have to remain a block away. There are fire trucks going by, ambulances going by, headed we know not where. But this is obviously a precautionary measure because no one clearly knows what to expect next. Right?
All right, Bill Plant. And again, Bill is unable to hear us. We were able to get his audio in here, but as you can imagine, it is I'm sure a frantic scene down in the nation's capital this morning, as it is here in New York, as we've been watching down at the southern tip of Manhattan. Jane Clayson is with me here in New York, and I apologize for talking throughout, but you've been watching. Go ahead, Jane.
Well, I just wonder how many people are in the building right now. We haven't been able to assess if people have been coming out of the building, if there have been people on the ground. One man reportedly had some burns from some debris that had fallen from the building, but we still haven't been able to assess if there are injuries, or obviously there are many hundreds or if not thousands of people affected, says James Kallstrom, formerly of the FBI, but we still don't know that, and that's one looming question.
Yeah, I mean, you at this point, you hate to jump to conclusions and you don't want to throw numbers around, but if, and again, I put if in capital letters, if we are talking about 2 commercial aircraft plowing into the World Trade Center during business hours or shortly before the business day begins at 9 a.m., we are talking about some considerable numbers dead and injured.
And not just at the World Trade Center, now at the Pentagon in Washington as well.
Also at the Pentagon. And we're looking at a list of some of the businesses on the upper levels of the World Trade Center, and none of them have any affiliation with the government. But again, the World Trade Center isn't necessarily a government building. It is, there's U.S. Customs above the 70th floor, but the World Trade Center, more than anything, is a symbol of the United States, a symbol of U.S. progress, a symbol of U.S. might, located as it is down at the heart of Wall Street. And so if in fact it was targeted, it was because of its symbolic value. Producer Laura Shane was by the Pentagon when it was hit. Let's go there again. She can't hear us, but she can speak with us. Laura, somebody cue her.
Hello. Hello.
All right. Obviously, we're having problems with Laura Shane's audio. Again, at this point, we don't know whether that Pentagon explosion was the result of an aircraft crashing into it or a bomb that was deployed near there. We had an unconfirmed report that it was a helicopter that had crashed into the building. You can still see some flames down there in the lower right-hand corner. Now we are getting a report that they believe it was a plane. But again, we do not have any confirmation of that, nor do we have any idea what the numbers involved here are.
These are the first scenes from the ground, it appears.
Yeah, these are scenes from near the Pentagon in the nation's capital. We don't know how close to the Pentagon these are. Obviously, that is not the Pentagon in the background, so we're talking of a neighboring area. We're not getting any numbers at this point. We do know that an FBI team has been dispatched from the nation's capital to investigate what has gone on at the World Trade Center, but at this point our information is sketchy. Looking at a report here now, the first plane to hit the World Trade Center was a hijacked aircraft that had taken off from Boston, supposedly an American Airlines Boeing 767 out of Logan. This is the second aircraft. We don't know whether or not this aircraft was, as earlier reported, a United Airlines aircraft. We are also getting word out of Chicago that the Sears Tower, the tallest structure in that city, has been evacuated. Before we have to step aside, as we're getting another look at the second attack, we understand a Pentagon witness is with us in Washington. Good morning. This is Bryant Gumbel in New York. Could you identify yourself, please? Hello?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Could you identify yourself for me?
Yes, my name is Jim Dorsett.
And Jim, how close are you to the Pentagon? Okay, we're obviously having some problems making that connection with the eyewitness in Washington. We have just a minute left. Let's go ahead and recount what we do know. At 8:45 Eastern Time on a clear day on the southern tip of Manhattan, not one but two aircraft plowed into the World Trade Center. We don't know at this point if they were private aircraft. We don't know if it was intentional. All we do know is that they appeared to be commercial aircraft. These come amid reports of hijacking. Shortly after that, about an hour after that, there was an explosion at the Pentagon. At this point, the Pentagon, the White House, the Capitol, and the Treasury have been evacuated in Washington. In New York, all airports, tunnels, and bridges have been closed, and in Chicago, the Sears Tower has been evacuated. We understand now there has been a secondary explosion on Tower 2. With that, we will leave you and turn it over to Dan Rather.
This is CBS News continuing live coverage of the apparent terrorist attacks today here in New York City and in Washington, D.C. It's important to say these things at the very beginning. There is much that is not known about what is happening. The second thing is that the word from almost everybody who's trying to deal with the situation, the word of the day is steady. Steady. Yes, there have been some terrible things happening, but until and unless we know the facts, it's very difficult to draw many conclusions. Now, here's what we know. Just before 9 Eastern Time this morning, a plane crashed into one of the twin towers of the World Trade Center along the Hudson River here in New York. A few minutes later, a second plane crashed into the other tower. Both skyscrapers are on fire. Evacuations have been underway for a long while. There are known injuries. How many? Much too soon to know. And whether there's any death or not, it is too soon to know. Yes, there are widespread assumptions that there must be death, but there are no confirmed fatalities. Now, in Washington, the Pentagon has had a fire and explosions, much speculation of what would have caused the fires and explosions at the Pentagon in Washington, but very few facts. David Martin, our Pentagon correspondent, says that he has seen, I believe it said 5 injured people at the Pentagon. One eyewitness, and only one so far, is quoted as saying he thinks, I put that in quotation marks, he thinks a plane crashed into the Pentagon. But there'll be rumors all day, and we're going to try to separate the rumors from the facts. Now, you're looking at a live picture of the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center, in flames, with much smoke. In the last few minutes, there have been 2 reports, but not yet officially confirmed, that a portion of at least one of the towers has collapsed. But I caution that that's an unconfirmed report, although it comes from 2 sources, and it's unclear whether that collapse is about the interior of the building or some portion of the exterior of the building. I want to emphasize again, not to be redundant, but this is a day in which rumors are going to spread like mildew in damp basements. And there'll be reports, some of them will be officially confirmed, some not. That's the environment in which we're dealing. Now, President Bush was in Florida this morning. He called this an apparent act of terrorism and rushed back to Washington. The President is in the air going back to Washington at the moment. Now, in Washington, the report spread that a plane also crashed at the Pentagon. See, as David Martin says, there are at least several injuries. Several is the word he used. The FAA has banned all aircraft takeoffs nationwide. Here in New York, the city is on a full terrorist alert. Bridges and tunnels are closed. You recall the World Trade Center was the target of a terrorist bombing in 1993. Now, again, it's important to point out that with television, what we can show you is what is at the end of the television camera. The whole city is not in smoke and flames, not by a long shot. The city is on a terrorist alert. Entry into the city has been closed off. Tunnels and bridges are closed off as a precautionary measure. But, you know, in many, many areas of New York City, life goes on this morning, and the same is true in Washington, D.C. So just keep in mind that when you see this picture constantly, it's of one section of New York City, and we go to Washington for the picture there, the Pentagon, the same thing. These pictures are not in real time. As you can see, that made it look like that the flames were spreading. This picture steadied now. For those of you familiar with the city, the World Trade Center at the end of Manhattan Island, 2 twin towers. Apparently, 2 aircraft, one hit into one of the towers and then another hit into the other tower. What kind of aircraft were they? We simply do not know what kind of planes they were. Witnesses described them as, quote, large aircraft. Yes, you may have heard reports, but the reports are unconfirmed, that there was one aircraft that had been hijacked. There continue to be reports. I'm pausing, taking in information as I speak to you. There are increasing reports that on one of the World Trade Center towers, that portions of the tower have collapsed. Now, this would not be surprising to have this proven to be true, given the smoke and flames that have been pouring out of these buildings for what now, well over an hour. I want to underscore again that both towers have been hit. Both towers, each tower was hit by an aircraft, incoming aircraft. The origin of the aircraft, what kind of planes, unknown. I was saying before there have been these reports, but the reports are unconfirmed, that an aircraft in the Eastern Air Corridor may have been hijacked this morning and may have been one of the planes that crashed in the World Trade Center. None of that is confirmed. CBS News veteran correspondent Harold Dow is on the telephone now from a section of the city where these twin towers are in flames and smoke. Harold, if you hear us, come in.
Yeah, I arrived on the scene about an hour and a half ago, and believe it or not, there was another major explosion. The building itself, literally the top of it, came down, sending smoke and debris everywhere. I had to do all I could to run to get away from all the debris. Me and a number of other people here are trapped in the subway here in a shoe store, actually trying to get away from most of the debris. It's just an incredible sight. They had a lot of emergency workers around the building, and of course everybody's hoping that these people were able to get out of there without being injured. But it is a